Melody Vargas gripped the steering wheel of her battered Primeexpress van, the engine humming a low, indifferent rumble as she navigated the winding roads of Ronda, Spain. At 28, she traded the chaotic pulse of Los Angeles for this expatriate dream 3 years ago, chasing sunsets over cliffs and a life unscripted by her family's endless expectations. Back home, her mother had wept, calling it a fool's errand, a delivery girl in Spain. "Ay, Mija, you're running from shadows that follow you everywhere." But Melody had always run, from the sterile hospital rooms of her youth, from the ghost of her sister's illness that had stolen their laughter, from the quiet ache of loving women in a world that sometimes whispered judgment. Here, amid the olive groves and Moorish arches, she delivered packages to tourists and locals alike, piecing together a fragile peace. It was a sweltering Tuesday in late summer when the app pinged her with the address, Calle de los Flores, a narrow lane perched on the edge of the gorge. The package was innocuous, a small, wrapped box from an online bookstore in Madrid, addressed to one Mila Rossi. Melody punched it into her GPS, muttering under her breath about the heat wave that had turned her van into a rolling sauna. She blasted an old playlist of Selena and Gloria Estefan, letting the rhythms drown out the loneliness that crept in during these solitary drives. Spain was beautiful, yes, emerald hills rolling to the sea, the air thick with jasmine and salt, but it was also achingly quiet, a canvas too vast for one woman's whispers. As she crested the hill, the village unfolded like a postcard, whitewashed houses clinging to the cliffs, geraniums spilling from wrought iron balconies, the distant roar of the Guadalquivir River carving its eternal path below. Melody parked haphazardly, grabbing the package and wiping sweat from her brow. Her reflection in the side mirror showed a woman who'd grown into her strength, olive skin tan deep, dark curls escaping her ponytail, brown eyes sharp with the vigilance of someone who'd learned to spot trouble early. She hefted the box and started up the path, her boots crunching on gravel. That's when she saw her. The woman, Mila, she assumed, was propped against the turquoise door of her cottage, one hand pressed to her chest, the other clutching the iron knocker as if it were a lifeline. Her face was pale beneath a crown of silver-streaked auburn hair, loose waves framing features that spoke of faded elegance, high cheekbones, a mouth curved in perpetual half-smile, eyes the color of aged cognac. She looked to be in her mid-60s, dressed in a simple linen blouse and skirt that fluttered like forgotten flags in the breeze. A gasp escaped her lips, ragged and raw, and Melody's world tilted. "Hey! Ma'am. Are you okay?" Melody dropped the package and rushed forward, kneeling in the dust. The woman's pulse fluttered weakly under Melody's fingers, erratic, like a bird trapped in a cage. "Breathe with me, okay? In. Out. I'm calling for help." Her phone was already out, dialing the local emergency line in broken Spanish peppered with English urgency. "Sí, una señora mayor. Ella está. She's having trouble breathing. Ronda, Calle de los Flores. Rapido, por favor." Mila's eyes fluttered open, locking onto Melody's with a clarity that pierced through the haze of pain. "Not the hospital," she murmured, her voice a threadbare whisper laced with an accent that danced between Italian warmth and American steel. "New York, maybe, or Chicago. Please. Just water. Inside." Melody hesitated, the operator's voice tinny in her ear confirming an ambulance en route. Hospitals. The word alone conjured ghosts, beeping monitors, the sterile scent of regret, her sister's hand going limp in hers at 16. But this woman wasn't family, she was a stranger on a doorstep, and yet something in her gaze, vulnerable, defiant, tugged at Melody like an old scar. "All right, but only till they get here. Lean on me." She helped Mila to her feet, the older woman's frame surprisingly light, as if years of carrying secrets had hollowed her out. The cottage door creaked open to a world of cool shadows, terracotta floors worn smooth by time, bookshelves groaning under leather-bound tomes, a vase of wilting lavender on a side table. Melody guided her to a faded velvet chaise by the window, where sunlight slanted in like a hesitant confession. She fetched a glass of water from the kitchen, simple, sunlit, with herbs drying from the rafters, and pressed it to Mila's lips. As Mila sipped, color returned to her cheeks, though her breaths came shallow. "Thank you," she said softly, her hand lingering on Melody's wrist. The touch was electric, unintended, a brush of skin that spoke volumes in silence. I get these spells. The doctor says it's the heart. But hospitals. They take more than they give." Melody nodded, sinking onto the edge of the chaise, her own heart a reluctant drum. "I get it. Lost someone to one of those places once. Feels like they steal your soul along with the fight." The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, but in that suspended moment, the room felt like a sanctuary. Mila's eyes searched hers, as if seeing past the uniform to the woman beneath, the one who'd crossed an ocean to outrun her pain. "You have kind eyes," Mila said, a faint smile cracking her lips. "Like someone I once knew. What's your name, deliverer of books?" "Melody. Melody Vargas." She extended her hand, and Mila took it, her grip surprisingly firm. "Mila Rossi. And this," she nodded to the fallen package on the threshold, now retrieved by Melody, "is my escape. Poetry. Always poetry." The paramedics burst in then, efficient and brusque, wheeling in their kit amid a flurry of questions. Melody stepped back, watching as they checked vitals, administered oxygen. Mila waved her off weakly, but her eyes followed, a silent plea. "Will you stay? Just till it's over?" Against every instinct screaming to bolt, to deliver the next package, to keep moving, Melody stayed. She sat in the corner, arms crossed, as the medic stabilized Mila and loaded her onto a stretcher. The ride to the hospital in Malaga was a blur of flashing lights and coastal highways, Melody trailing in her van like a reluctant shadow. By the time they arrived at the stark white corridors of Hospital Clínico, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky in bruises of purple and gold. In the waiting room, Melody paced, the linoleum squeaking under her boots. Why? She asked herself. A delivery gone wrong, that's all. But Mila's touch lingered, a phantom warmth, stirring something dormant, a curiosity, perhaps, or the echo of connections she'd long avoided. When the doctor emerged, his face grave but not despairing, Melody stood. "She's stable," he said in accented English, assuming her American roots from the van's plates. "A minor arrhythmia, triggered by stress. But she insists on seeing you." The delivery girl. Melody followed him down the hall, past beeping monitors that twisted her gut. Mila lay in a semi-private room, dripping steadily, her hair fanned across the pillow like a silver halo. She looked smaller here, vulnerable in the institutional gown, but her eyes lit up as Melody entered. "You came," Mila breathed, reaching out. "I didn't know your name then, but I felt it, like fate dropping a package at my door." Melody pulled up a chair, the plastic creaking under her. "Couldn't leave a customer hanging. Primeexpress policy, satisfaction guaranteed." Mila chuckled, a soft, weary sound. "More than that, I think. Sit. Tell me about you, Melody Vargas. What brings a girl with fire in her veins to these dusty roads?" And so, as night deepened outside the window, stars pricking the velvet sky over the Mediterranean, Melody talked. About LA's relentless sprawl, her sister's battle with leukemia that had left her orphaned in spirit at 25, the way Spain's wild beauty had called her like a lover's whisper. Mila listened, her hand occasionally brushing Melody's on the bed rail, each touch a bridge across years. In turn, Mila shared fragments. Born in Sicily to Italian immigrants, raised in Brooklyn's tenements, she'd fled to Spain in the 80s with a painter's heart and a secret love. Her name was Elena, Mila said, voice dropping to a hush. "We built this life in Ronda, art, wine, stolen nights under the stars. But life. It betrays you. She left, not by choice, but by circumstance. Cancer, again. Funny how it circles back." Melody's throat tightened. "I'm sorry. I know that hollow." Mila's gaze held hers, deep and unyielding. "Do you Or do you run from it, like I did for decades? The question hung, heavy as the humid air. Melody wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but Mila's eyes stripped her bare. For the first time in years, the walls she'd built, brick by brick after her sister's funeral, after failed flings that fizzled under scrutiny, cracked. By dawn, as nurses bustled in for rounds, Melody had promised to return. After my shift. If you promise to rest. Mila squeezed her hand. I promise nothing, except this, you've already changed everything, just by showing up. As Melody drove back to Rhonda, the van's radio crackling with a mournful Fathu tune, she felt the shift, like tectonic plates under the earth, subtle but irreversible. Little did she know, Mila's spells were no accident. They were the prelude to a revelation that would drag them both into a storm of old wounds, buried letters, and a love neither had dared to claim again. The days blurred into a rhythm that felt both foreign and inevitable. Melody's deliveries took on new urgency, parcels of olive oil to Finkus, artisanal cheeses to cliffside inns, but her thoughts always looped back to the hospital in Malaga. She'd sneak away after lunch, the van's air conditioner wheezing against the heat, racing down the AP-7 highway with its views of jagged Sierras and sapphire sea. Mila's room became a confessional, the beeping machines a reluctant chaperone to their unfolding stories. Mila recovered slowly, her minor arrhythmia masking deeper fractures, a heart weakened not just by age, but by decades of unspoken grief. She was 65, a widow in name only, her official papers listing a long-dead husband from a brief, passionless marriage in the 70s, a cover for the life she'd built with Elena. Society's rules, Mila explained one afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the blinds, gilding her silver hair. We were artists in a world that painted us as sinners. Elena's family in Barcelona, devout, unyielding, forced the lie. But oh, the truth of us. It was poetry etched in skin. Melody leaned against the bed rail, her uniform rumpled from the day's heat. She traced the veins on Mila's hand, delicate blue rivers under translucent skin, marveling at the stories they held. I envy that fire. My loves. They've been flickers. A barista in Echo Park who ghosted me after a month. A professor in Madrid who wanted passion but not the permanence. I tell myself it's freedom, but it's fear. After Sophia, my sister, died, loving felt like tempting fate. Mila's thumb stroked the back of Melody's hand, a gesture so tender it bordered on ache. Fear is the thief, Kara. It steals tomorrows before you claim them. Elena taught me that. We met in '78, at a gallery opening in New York, her with paint under her nails, me with a camera slung over my shoulder. She was 40, bold as a storm, I was 33, adrift in my parents' expectations. One look, and the world rearranged. As Mila spoke, her voice wove tapestries, stolen weekends in the Catskills, Elena's canvases capturing Mila's form in bold strokes of ochre and indigo. Their escape to Spain in '85, buying the Rhonda cottage with savings scraped from freelance gigs, Mila's photographs sold to magazines, Elena's paintings to discreet collectors. Life there was a dream woven from figs and phenos, nights tangled in linen sheets under olive branches. But in '03, the diagnosis came, pancreatic cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. Elena fought like a lioness, her last painting a portrait of Mila against the gorge, fierce and unbroken. She died in the cottage, whispering, live wide, my love. For both of us. Tears welled in Melody's eyes, unbidden. How do you carry that? The weight of it all. By sharing it, Mila replied, her gaze locking with an intensity that made Melody's pulse stutter. And by finding echoes. In you, I see her, not the face, but the spirit. The way you charge into chaos, unafraid. Their hands entwined then, a quiet claiming. Melody felt the pull, magnetic and terrifying, a love blooming in the sterile hush of a hospital room, defying the years between them. It wasn't lust, but something purer, recognition, the soul seeing its mirror across time. They talked of books, Mila's latest delivery, a volume of Pablo Neruda's love sonnets, and music, swapping playlists of Joan Baez and Rosalia. Melody brought tamales from a street vendor, spicy and grounding, and Mila sketched her on napkins, capturing the curve of her jaw, the spark in her eyes. Discharge came on a Friday, the air crisp with autumn's promise. Melody loaded Mila into the van, the package of poetry tucked beside her like a talisman. The drive to Rhonda was alive with laughter, Mila teasing Melody's lead-footed driving, Melody retorting with tales of LA traffic jams that made the autovia seem a stroll. At the cottage, Melody fushed, brewing chamomile tea and fluffing pillows, her caretaker role slipping into something domestic, intimate. That evening, as stars wheeled overhead, they sat on the terrace, the gorge a black velvet chasm below. Mila poured manzanilla from a chilled bottle, the sherry's nutty bite warming their veins. To new chapters, she toasted, clinking glasses. Their knees brushed under the table, a spark in the cooling air. But peace, in stories like theirs, is fleeting. The betrayal arrived not with thunder, but a whisper. A letter slipped under the door the next morning, while Melody dozed on the chaise after an all-night vigil. Mila found it first, her face draining of color as she read. It was from Barcelona, Elena's nephew, a stern-faced lawyer named Javier, claiming rights to the cottage. The property was Elena's by blood, the letter stated coldly. Your arrangement was never legal. We're selling. Vacate by month's end. Mila crumpled it, but the damage was done. She hadn't told Melody everything, not the codicil in Elena's will, forged in desperation to protect their home, naming Mila as heir but vulnerable to family challenge. Javier, bitter over his aunt's deviant life, had waited until Mila's health faltered to strike. They think I'm weak now, Mila confessed later, voice trembling as she showed Melody the paper. That'll fold like before. Melody's blood boiled, a righteous fury rising. Like hell. This is your home, yours and Elena's. We'll fight it. She paced the kitchen, phone in hand, researching Spanish inheritance laws on her cracked screen. But doubt gnawed, she was a delivery driver, not a lawyer, an American expat with no ties, pouring her savings into rent on a tiny flat in town. What could she offer against blood claims and cold ledgers? The conflict escalated swiftly. Javier arrived unannounced a week later, a tall man in a crisp suit, his face a mask of Elena's but twisted with disdain. He stood on the terrace, surveying the view like a conqueror. Aunt Mila, he said, the title laced with irony. Time to let go. This place. It's poisoned by memories. Mila faced him from the doorway, chin lifted, Melody a silent sentinel at her side. Poisoned. It's consecrated by love, Javier. Yours was the poison, your letters after Elena died, calling her unnatural, me a thief. This cottage is her legacy, not your grudge. He sneered, eyes flicking to Melody with barely veiled contempt. And who's this? Your new companion. Pity. At your age, clinging to illusions. The words landed like slaps, but Melody stepped forward, her voice steady. She's not clinging. She's claiming what's hers. And if you think love's an illusion, you've never known it. Javier laughed, a hollow bark. Stay out of family matters, girl. Sign the papers, Mila, or the courts will decide, and they'll side with blood. He left with a stack of documents, the air thick with threat. That night, as rain lashed the gorge, Mila broke. She curled on the chaise, sobs racking her frail frame. He's right, in a way. Elena and I, we built on sand. No rings, no laws. Just promises. And now it's crumbling. Melody knelt beside her, wiping tears with thumbs calloused from packages. Then we rebuild. On stone this time. She pulled Mila into her arms, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling in the lamplight. The kiss came unbidden, a soft press of lips, tasting of salt and sherry, a seal against the storm. It was chaste, profound, a vow etched in the quiet. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. Unbeknownst to them, Javier had dug deeper, uncovering Mila's medical records, twisting her spells into proof of incapacity. Whispers spread through Rhonda's tight-knit expat circle, Melody's involvement painted as opportunistic, a young woman preying on the vulnerable. Deliveries turned awkward, neighbors who'd waved now averted eyes. Melody's boss at Primeexpress called her in, rumors, Mel. Keep it professional. No scandals. Isolation closed in, a noose of judgment. Melody felt the old fear resurface, the runner's itch to flee. Late one night, staring at the gorgeous abyss, she confessed to Mila, "What if I can't do this? What if loving you means losing everything, my job, my peace?" Mila's hand found hers in the dark. "Then we lose together. But run, and you lose yourself twice." The climax brewed as court dates loomed, Javier's lawyers circling like vultures. Melody, desperate, drove to Malaga's archives, poring over faded deeds and Elena's will. There, in a dusty ledger, she found it, a notarized letter from Elena, hidden in metaphor, gifting the cottage to the light of my days, Mila, unequivocally. But to present it meant exposing their truth to the world, risking scandal in a Spain still shedding its conservative skin. As thunder rolled over the Sierras, Melody returned, the document clutched like a grenade. "This changes everything," she said, voice breaking. "But it might break us first." Mila pulled her close, their embrace a fortress. "Let it. For love, we endure." The courtroom in Ronda's old ayuntamiento was a relic of empire, high ceilings vaulted like cathedral arches, wooden benches scarred by centuries of disputes. Sunlight filtered through arched windows, casting elongated shadows on the tile floor, as if the ghosts of Moorish poets bore witness. Melody sat rigid beside Mila, her hand a secret anchor under the table. Javier lounged across the aisle, his suit impeccable, flanked by a shark of a lawyer who droned on about familial rights and moral legacies. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s with silver hair pinned severely, peered over spectacles at the assembled papers. "Senora Rossi," she addressed Mila, her tone measured, "you claim emotional attachment to the property. But law favors blood ties." Mila rose, her linen dress a quiet armor, voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. "With respect, Your Honor, blood isn't the only tie that binds. This cottage isn't stone and deed, it's a life. Elena Torres, my partner of 25 years, willed it to me not in ink, but in every brushstroke, every shared dawn." She gestured to Melody, who placed the archival letter on the bench, a single page, yellowed but unyielding, Elena's looping script declaring, "To Mila, the canvas of my soul, I leave our sanctuary, free and whole." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Javier's face darkened, his lawyer objecting furiously, "Irrelevant sentiment. The deceased's inclinations do not supersede inheritance statutes." But Melody couldn't stay silent. She stood, heart hammering, her Primeexpress poise cracking into raw truth. "It matters because it's real. I deliver packages every day, boxes of other people's lives. But this is Mila's life. Elena's love wasn't deviance, it was defiance. And denying it now. That's the real immorality." The courtroom hushed, the judge's pen pausing mid-note. Whispers of "Maricón" and "Extrandra" slithered from the back, but Melody held her ground, eyes locked on Mila's, brown fire meeting cognac depth. In that gaze, she saw not just a woman, but a mirror, two souls, scarred by loss, daring to weave anew. The hearing dragged into afternoon, testimonies unfolding like a tapestry torn and mended. Neighbors testified, reluctant at first, then fervent, recalling Elena and Mila's quiet generosity, art classes for village children, wine shared at fiestas. Javier countered with venom, painting Mila as a parasite who'd ensnared his aunt, his voice cracking on the edge of old wounds. She turned Elena from family. From God. The betrayal peaked when he produced a forged affidavit, Elena's sister, long estranged, claiming the will was coerced. It was a lie, blatant as the gorgeous scar, but it sowed doubt, the judge calling a recess as thunder grumbled outside. In the cloistered hallway, rain sheeting the windows, Mila sagged against the wall. It's over. He's poisoned it all. Melody cupped her face, thumbs tracing jawlines etched by time. No. We're the antidote. Their kiss was fierce then, rain lashed and desperate, a clash of lips and breaths, pouring years of restraint into one defiant moment. It drew stares, murmurs, but they clung, unashamed, the world fading to the rhythm of their hearts. When court reconvened, the judge ruled swiftly, her voice a gavel of clarity. The letter stands as testament. Emotional bonds, when documented with intent, hold weight in modern Spain. The property is Senora Rossi's. Case dismissed. Javier stormed out, his defeat a hollow roar, but victory tasted bittersweet. The gallery's eyes burned, approval from some, condemnation from others. As they emerged into the downpour, umbrellas blooming like black flowers, Melody and Mila walked arm in arm, the cottage waiting like a beacon. Back home, the rain eased to a patter, the gorge mist-shrouded and renewed. They lit candles on the terrace, Elena's portrait gazing from the wall, bold eyes approving. Mila uncorked a bottle of Rioja, vintage '03, Elena's birth year. To endurance, she toasted. Melody clinked glasses, her free hand finding Mila's waist. To us. Whatever shape that takes. The months that followed were a gentle unfolding. Melody quit Primeexpress for a gig at a local gallery, curating expat artists, her days filled with color and connection. Mila's heart steadied, spells rarer under the care of a compassionate cardiologist, and Melody's unwavering presence. They traveled, a weekend in Seville's Alcazars, where flamenco's fire mirrored their spark, a quiet ferry to Tangier, trading stories under Moroccan stars. Conflict lingered in echoes, Javier's silence a grudging retreat, village tongues wagging less with time. But deeper still was the internal storm, Melody's fear of impermanence, Mila's guilt over outliving Elena. One crisp November evening, as Mistral winds whipped the olive leaves, it crested. I see her in you, Mila confessed, tracing Melody's collarbone by firelight. But that's not fair. You're not her echo, you're the verse after. Melody pulled back, vulnerability raw. And you're not Sophia, the sister I couldn't save. But loving you. It scares me. What if time takes you too? Mila's eyes shimmered. Then we've lived, fully. No regrets, no half measures. Promise me that. Their embrace dissolved barriers, bodies aligning in the fire's glow, not carnal, but sacred, a dance of souls reclaiming space. In the quiet after, wrapped in wool blankets, Melody whispered, I promise. Wide and whole. The shocking emergency, that doorstep collapse, had been no accident, but a universe's nudge, unraveling Mila's isolation and Melody's flight. It changed everything, a cottage secured, a love affirmed, two women bridging chasms of age and ache. Spring brought renewal. They planted a garden, rosemary for remembrance, lavender for Elena's favorite scent. Melody proposed not with rings, but a locket, inside, a tiny photo of them against the gorge, captioned, Our Sanctuary. Mila accepted with tears, slipping it around her neck. Years later, as Mila's hair silvered fully and Melody's curls threaded with gray, they'd sit on that terrace, hands entwined, watching sunsets bleed into the sea. The world turned, Spain's laws evolving, prejudices fading like old paint, but their story endured, a testament to love's quiet revolution. In the end, it wasn't triumph or tragedy, but grace, two women, finding in each other the home they'd always sought. And in Rhonda's eternal embrace, they lived wide, for Elena, for Sophia, for the poetry of us all.